Welcome to a dose of deeper contemplation. We have cultivated this self-healing practice as we navigate the many aspects of modern life with the desire to be a better human. As a psychic medium, these conversations are channeled, so let's take a walk together and talk it out. We are sitting in the glory of the forest. So grateful to be here, to be in what it feels like to be with more trees than people, and to be surrounded by the field, the energy of the trees, and not so much a field of energy of people. It's a very different experience. Now, what's amazing about the wisdom of the trees is something that they can teach us if we see it from a standpoint of looking at the elements around us and finding clues on how to live more in the flow of the energy of life, living connected and in the flow of energy of source. Gazing around the forest, what's fascinating to see is the forest floor and how covered it is with fallen trees, fallen branches. Now, a somewhat human perspective would be to see these trees as dead or dying. And from that perspective, then basically a forest is living trees that dwell among their dying, dwell among their fallen. There's amazing research that's been done about the network of trees, a network of a root system within the earth, and how vastly a community of trees can be connected. And so there must be something to this living amongst the fallen that benefits this community somehow, whether it's through the natural process of decay, the transmuting of matter, of like living matter and transmuting it into the earth through the process of decomposition, and knowing all of the incredible microsystems, ecosystems that can be held, all the life that's held, whether it's with fungus or animal family or insect family, like they all could find nutrients and home, shelter, whatever they need within these fallen trees. So what would the wisdom be to live amongst the fallen? What's coming forward of adapting this to perhaps a more human perspective is their connection to ancestors. But modern folk, we don't necessarily like to address or think about death too deeply, which is so fascinating because it's an inevitable experience for all of us at some point. And we came into the forest today to connect and seek wisdom, seek guidance around all that has transpired in our current experiences, what's happening in our life right now, things that are expected or unexpected. We just wanted to sit in the stillness of the forest and listen through that intention to receive guidance. And so interesting that this is what was coming through about living amongst the fallen, feeling like an invitation to connect deeper into ancestors, into guidance. What's very interesting about the understanding of ancestors that we often come back to sometimes when we're thinking about ancestors, it's like, wow, how far back do we go? Do we go back last generation before that, generation before that, generation 20 years ago, generation 100 years ago? These are our ancestors. What's the connection and the wisdom as we go back farther and farther and farther and farther in the lineage? And in that questioning, how far back do we go? Because as we know, it just takes us back to source, the origin of energy. The other question that comes up sometimes with that question around ancestors is not just like, okay, how far back do you want to go? But also, which lifetime would you like to discuss? Which incarnation? And as we ask this question, it's very, very interesting because it's here. It's so clear. And in this moment, the guidance is to go back into the state of the ancestors where this was the world, there were more trees than humans throughout all of the lands, and that a womb body would go into the forest and connect into nature and understand that that connection is to be of service to others, to forage amongst the forest and find medicine, because she speaks to the plants. There's communication, there's connection, to understand the nutrients, the medicines, the potions that would be helpful in healing to humanity if needed. And these folks, through our ancestors, depending on their region or their practices, be considered or called different words. Some were called shamans, some were called medicine women or medicine men, and some were called witches. But they were connected to a purpose, to an existence, a clear knowing as to why they're currently incarnate, and that is to be a healer, to guide healing in all the ways that magic can be healing. Magic being this understanding, this connection to the energy of all life, to receive the wisdom of nature, to wield energy in service, and to cultivate that with devotion, and that to trust those who come into our field and to be available for their healing. What's interesting about being an energy healer is that saying you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And we've noticed that with so many folks who have come into our different paths of healing. And some get it, some totally believe in magic, and so they experience magic. And some kind of do, but not really. So it's kind of magical. And those who feel it, it kind of freaks them out. And then that fear causes resistance. And resistance and tension and fear, these are not frequencies in which magic can dwell. The magic that we believe in, that we feel connected to. Witches are healers, especially a witch who lives in the woods. Thank you for being with us in this contemplation and conversation with the forest. This is Deep Dose, and we are Eden.